my channel or welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy, sometimes Mouse, and I talk about books and book-related things, and today I am giving you my September wrap-up. September was a really productive reading month. I did participate in Sapphic September, and I don't normally participate in readathons that are not my own, but I've now done it twice this year. Were they both hosted by my friends, and were they both Sapphic ones? Yes. Was I probably going to read all of those books anyway? No, this time the answer is no, because I read a lot of romance this month, and I don't read romance, and one of them is even on my top books of the month. And it might even go on the bracket battle at the end of the year for the top book of the year. It's probably not going to win, but it's still going there, so riddle me that. Haters? Just kidding. You're not haters. Anyway, hi. We're going to talk about my September wrap-up. You guys ready for some stats? Let's talk about stats. Again, good reading month this month. I had a lot of fun with the books that I was reading, so I'm in a good mood on that. I read a total of 26 books. I read a total of 3,402 pages. My audio hours were 190 hours and 10 minutes, which as days is 7 days, 22 hours and 10 minutes. My average pages per day was 140. My average hours was 7 hours, 31 minutes, and 36 seconds. And let me give two disclaimers about the pages and the hours. The pages read are only for books that have pages. So physical books or digital books, if I'm reading them with my eyes, those are the ones I'm counting for pages. And hours, again, would just be audiobook hours. However, I listen to most of my books on 2 to 3 times speed. So take the amount of time that I've listened in a month, 190, and just assume that it was on 2 to 3 times speed. So it's a bit less than that. I don't even know how many hours are in a month. I am not listening to audiobooks every waking moment, or else you guys would not be getting videos. Okay? Okay. My average rating for the month was a 3.8, which is kind of high, honestly, so I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it. I purchased a total of 1 book, which cost me $7.99, and that was the Imaginary Numbers by Sean McGuire. It is the next book in the Encrypted series. They're the only books that I'm currently allowing myself to buy, so that makes sense. I checked out a total of 15 library books, which saved me $353.52. I cannot emphasize enough how much the library has been a saving grace in these trying times. 4 of the books that I read this month were rereads. 14 of them were audiobooks, 10 of them were ebooks, and 2 of them were physical books. For the intended audiences of those books, 18 of them were adult, 5 of them were young adult, and 3 of them were middle grade. Also, I already know that next month, that is going to be not next month, but during Clear Your Shit, I'm going to fuck my adult to young adult numbers because I worked very hard on reading mostly adult books in the last couple of years. It's been a reading goal of mine because I was getting tired of young adult, but that meant I abandoned all of those young adult series. And then for Clear Your Shit this year, I'm working on reading through all of the unfinished series that I have, which means they're mostly young adult. And so I'm going to be reading mostly young adult in the last 2 months of this year, and I'm not looking forward to it. But I'm going to do it. Anyway, moving on. I just had to go on that little mini rant because I needed you guys to understand that how I suffer. I, for genres, read a total of 6 sci-fi, which is kind of like a lot for me, honestly. 6 fantasy, 4 romance, 2 thriller, 6 horror, a lot of 6s here, 1 general nonfiction, and 1 contemporary. Shocking. Romance number was kind of high. I think I actually read more romance last month. I did, which is truly shocking in general that I read this much romance at all. I don't generally read romance, but I think the graphic novels that I'm reading, the Whisper Me Love Song ones, they're really messing with those numbers. And then Sapphic September also kind of messed with those numbers a little bit, but it's okay. It's okay. Those are the stats. I rolled through them pretty quickly. But since I'm thinking about it and I'm not going to do a 9-month update on the book blanket, I thought I would just go ahead and show you guys what it is currently looking like. I'm working through October as we speak, so we've got January, gotta back up a little bit, February, March, April, May, June, where I had guests, so therefore I was not reading very much. July, August, where I read an obscene amount, and then September. So it is coming along quite well. If you keep up with my book blanket shenanigans. I am planning 2025's video and I'm very excited, and blanket, so I'm very excited to let you guys know about that in a later video. But let's go ahead and talk about, I think I want to do my worst book of the month first, and then I'll do my top books of the month just because there are more of them, so I want to get the worst one out of the way, and then I'll talk about the top books. So the worst book this month is actually going to be Bestiary by Ming Chang, and I have really wanted to read this author and enjoy this author. Unfortunately, I just don't think this author's writing style is for me, and so I've now read 2 novels by them, and then I've also read a couple of short stories in short story collections that this author is in, and determined that while there are some lines that are thought-provoking and I really enjoy the prose, I find the stories a bit difficult to follow. I also personally, as much as I love body horror, I don't do body fluids very well. They're not my favorite thing to read about. I find them very gross. Bodily functions as a whole I find quite gross. Not even in a horrifying way. I just don't enjoy reading content that talks about it in any like genre. I just don't enjoy, like, it could be a nonfiction book about somebody's health journey, and if it talked too much about body functions, I would be uncomfortable. It's just something that I don't personally enjoy reading, and so there's that. And Ming Chang writes that a lot in her books. That hyper focus on bodily fluids is just not for me. And also, I will start to enjoy the story, and then there will be this strange hyper focus on something body function wise, and it takes me out of my enjoyment and takes me out of the story. And because my brain kind of has to disconnect from it, by the time we're back into the plot, I am struggling to understand where we are in the story. So I find the stories a bit hard to follow because of my own discomfort. Really, this book, it's hard to say that this book is the worst book, because sometimes I read books and I'm like, this book is just objectively a bad book. And that happens. Sometimes I'm like, subjectively, this book sucked and it wasn't for me. This is a lesson in, I just don't think that this author is for me, because I've read, like I said, 2 books and a couple of short stories, and it's not for me. And I hate that. I really do, because I really like some of the lines in all of the things that I've read. But this, yeah, it just wasn't for me. So that is the worst book of the month. 2-star read. Yeah. Next up, we have my top books of the month, and I do have 4 of them. 3 of them are all a part of series, so technically all of them are a part of series, but one of them is like, you can pick up any of these books and it doesn't really matter. Kind of like Wicked Villains, you know, like romance series. A lot of them I feel like you can just kind of pick up anywhere, and this is one of them is a romance series. So anyway, okay. Let's talk about the top books this month. First up, we have Cage of Dark Hours by Marina Lassiter. This is the 2nd book in kind of like a fantasy horror series, and they wear these masks, and these masks give them more information, but they also kind of like take over them a little bit. So like, say you had a mask made out of someone who was a serial killer, but they also were like incredibly intelligent, which I think was kind of the plot of the first book. The more you wear the mask, the harder it is to separate yourself from the person that is in the mask. So think like that really bad comedy movie, The Mask. Not bad. I think I actually enjoyed it, but I was a kid, so I haven't seen it since then. The Mask, similar. It's similar to that, but horror fantasy. And this is the 2nd book in that series, and there are a lot of things that happened that were jarring and emotionally, they made me very emotional. Some religious indoctrination that people left behind, reconnecting with lost family or family that you were stolen from. It's just, they're really good. I would say they're kind of high fantasy, so it's a little bit shocking to me how much I enjoy these books, but I do. I genuinely enjoy them so much, and I'm very glad that they were recommended to me. So that's the first one. The next one is Damage Control by Jay. This is the romance books that I was talking about, where you can kind of just step into any of them and then and read them without problem. This is I think just a series of like famous characters, and they're all queer. Damage Control specifically is about this famous actress who is kind of discovering that she's queer, but it can't come out. Her mom kind of controls everything and her family is a bit homophobic. And so she gets a new PR agent who is to dissuade people from the queer rumors, and her new PR agent is lesbian, and they do obviously end up in a relationship together. It was very cute. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm very glad that I read it. So thank you to Sapphic September for reminding me that I enjoy Jay's writing a lot. So that was Damage Control, but I also read Just Physical, which was also good. I didn't enjoy it as much, but it was still very good. So you have those two recommendations from me. Next up we have Imaginary Numbers by Shauna McGuire. This is the 9th book in the Encrypted series and hands down the best one that I've read. So there's that. It is specifically about Sarah, who is one of the Price cousins. She is something that they call a cuckoo, who is a bit, they are very mind-controlling, manipulative. They can convince you that you've known them your whole life, and like they've always been a part of your life, even if that's not true. And so it's finally about Sarah, and we've kind of learned about her a little bit throughout all of these books, and I was very glad to finally have a book that focuses on her. So, and I think the next couple of books are going to kind of focus on the repercussions of what happened in this book. I'm not going to get too much into the detail about this book specifically because it would spoil things that happened in previous books, but it was hands down the best encrypted book that I have read thus far, and I'm really glad that I read it. I'm almost done with the currently out series, so that's exciting. And then last but not least, we have the First Sister Trilogy by Lyndon A. Lewis. And I do mention the whole trilogy. The first and last book I rated 5 stars, and then the second book I rated 4 stars. But I have the tendency to feel that way about second books and trilogies all the time. They feel a little like a stepping stone into the finale, right? But I think that just makes sense inherently. These books are very complex and have a lot of plot going on. They're sci-fi books that are pretty, I would say, like they're politically focused, but also character development focused. Everything came to a head in the 3rd book, and it was just genuinely so good. There's conversations about class warfare and eugenics and transphobia and just all of these things that are present in the day-to-day, but I feel like sometimes when those things are represented in books, it is overwhelming because you're not able to take yourself out of reality, and it's just like, this feels too much like what's happening right now, and so I'm having a hard time. Like, I'm reading to distance myself from reality, and this is not helping. Whereas this is like, it's very clearly its own world that you can relate to, if that makes sense. It's not your own world, or it's not our world with a different name, right? Like, it's very clearly a different world with clearly different rules and clearly different races and clearly different things going on politically. But again, you can relate to what's going on because some of it feels familiar to reality, which grounds it a little bit without making it heavy. Like, no, it is heavy. These books are heavy, but without making it, oh, cool, I didn't want to exist in my current reality and this is way too real for me right now, so I'm just not going to read it. I'm not going to say it doesn't have its own trigger warnings, and I would absolutely say to look into those, but they're really good sci-fi books. You follow a few main characters, one of whom is kind of, they have this like sisterhood where they help the military in more ways than one, and they can't talk, and that's kind of its own thing. And then there are these 2 best buds who were trained to be in the military, but like eventually things get a little rebellious there, and there's forced gender changes and for you know, incognito missions, and yeah, it's a lot and heavy, like I said, but really enjoyable considering the content. And Lyndon A. Lewis is an incredible author, and also got to meet Neil Newbin, so I'm jealous of that. Dressed as a Astarian. Lyndon was dressed as a Astarian and got to meet Neil Newbin, so I'm a bit jealous of that. But yeah, so that is my wrap up for September. It was a good month. I read some really good things. I'm glad that I participated in Sapphic September, and I will continue to do so next year, I hope. But that was it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below if you did. Let me know if there's any stats, because I am going to start working on my my tracker for next year. Let me know if there's any stats that you want to hear about specifically about my reading, because you know, this is mostly for me. The stats are interesting to me, but I don't know what you guys would want to know. And if it's something that I can make happen with the tracker, I would love to try and do that for you. So let me know. If you've read any of the books that I enjoyed or that I didn't enjoy, let me know. I love to talk about books with you guys, and I think that's it. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share if you did enjoy the video. I post videos every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, except for the first full week of the month, so I will see you guys on Thursday this week. Don't forget to take your meds, drink your water, and do something today to take care of yourselves. Okay, thanks, bye.